Hello to everybody. Here we are in the city center of Prague, and I'll give you a few minutes to gather together. So we'll be having a beautiful tour around the main square in the most beautiful historical and medieval city in the whole Europe, which is definitely the capital of the Czech Republic, which is Prague. Hello to everybody, my name is Victoria and I'm a licensed tour guide in Prague, in Czech Republic, and I'll be your tour guide for today. We'll be having a short walk around the main historical city center and you'll see the most beautiful sights of Prague today. And it doesn't matter if we have quarantine or the coronavirus is spreading all around the world, we definitely know, we guides know that we still can travel and we're gonna have this beautiful day today due to the best company, which is Join Pro, which helped us to gather together in the same place. So we'll be happy if you like the tour, and of course if you enjoy the sightseeing of Prague, we'll be happy if you share your donations with us so we could continue our job, and we'll be happy and we'll appreciate any support which you could definitely give us. Thank you a lot. And of course, I'll switch the screen so you could see Prague, and I'll announce some other rules of our today's tour. Of course, you know that our beautiful program gives the possibility to win a great prize, which is 100 US dollars. And during our tour today, I'll give you some questions, so you'll be able to give the answers in our chat. And in the end of the tour, I'll announce the right answers, and the winner will be also announced in the end in the comments. So feel free to give the right answers, to listen to me, and what I can promise you that in the end of the tour you will see the most beautiful Prague medieval astronomical clock show. So stay with us till the end and you'll be able to see the death and the life, how they are coming together. We're gonna start from here. Right now, we are in the old town square of Prague, in the most beautiful place in the whole city. And of course, the main architectural style which dominates the city is Gothic style. Here we are coming back to the 14th century when the main church, the Tenth Church, or the Church of St. Virgin Mary, was built here back in the 14th century. Prague is a medieval city because all the city was constructed back 600 years ago, even though Prague is today almost 1200 years old, 12 centuries. And of course, what you see right now, right here, definitely cannot be dated back by the 14th century because we have a huge mix of different styles, starting with Baroque or Gothic or Renaissance. But of course, Gothic will be dominating here. Well, the Tin Church, the one you can see right now, has a very strange location. You can definitely notice that this church is kind of behind these two buildings right here. And this might bring you to the idea, why is that so? Where else in the world you could see a church of the main square, the main city of Prague, which will be located and hidden after these two buildings? The problem today is that these two buildings are historical city and they used to be a school for the kids, which definitely could not be destroyed here. Well, there might be many questions. Why are there so many people today in the old town of Prague? Well, guys, no worries. There are still no tourists here in Prague, but there are a lot of locals. As usually, locals tried to escape this place and never to come to the old town of Prague. But today, because there are no tourists, locals finally started to leave their houses and travel around their own city and discover it for themselves. Not only we have a Catholic church here, which was constructed back in the 14th century during the reign of our most famous King Charles, But we also have here another church. This one was constructed back in the 17th, 18th century, and today this one is a Czechoslovak Hussite church. The name of Hussites, or Hussites if you want to, and the name of this guy, Jan Hus, comes back from the 15th century. Well, this was one of the most famous person in all the medieval history of Prague, because this guy set himself up to fire, and he said that, okay, you may kill me, but I will never give up my ideas, because he didn't like the way how the church works in the 15th century. He didn't like the idea that he could buy the special document, and this document would let him go to the paradise. And of course, he hated this idea, so he decided to teach people that this is wrong. And of course, he was, for his ideas, he was set up to fire. And even today, every year, on the 6th of July, by the way, just like 2 days after, for you guys, if you are from the United States, after the Independence Day, right? We have a holiday here in the Czech Republic. We have a day of John Hus, and this is one of the most desired holidays in the Czech Republic. At least it used to be like this, and the reason why is that so is because people could leave Czech Republic and they could go to Croatia. Well, I'm afraid this year it would be definitely impossible, or almost impossible. All right, guys, so here we are in the middle of the square, and the time is coming. So I'm gonna give you right now the first question in our tour. So I hope you will be ready to answer it. And the first question will sound like this. Please give me the name of architectural style which dominates in the center of Prague, in the whole city. And I'm gonna help you right now here, because I'm actually showing you this beautiful and unusual architectural style. So I think it's now the time for you to give the right answers in our chat, and in the end I'll give you the right one. Okay, so I'll repeat the first question, question number one, which is the style in architecture which dominates in the center of Prague. Well, I think we're gonna leave this beautiful square for a while. Should Well, guys, we'll be having a short walk right now until we reach the next stop. So I hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather in Prague, and of course, feel free to ask any questions if you have some. Let's reach the next stop, which will be the main thing which we're gonna have in Prague today. In the whole city center, we have the unusual location of a thing which definitely attracts our attention. And this thing is called the St. Virgin Mary column. Over here, you can definitely see something strange and something weird is going on in Prague. And if any of you have ever been to the city, well, and if you come back, you will never see this city again as you used to see it. Well, over here you can see on the pictures, you can see the idea how the main square of Prague should look like. And right here, you can see a very unusual thing, which is definitely called the Virgin Mary's column. The problem why it's called so is because in the top of this column very soon should be the statue of Saint Virgin Mary, which is supposed to appear over here very, very soon. This is a very unusual historical event. Why that happened? The problem is that Czech Republic today is actually a young country, and the Czech Republic was only created 102 years ago, in 1918. I mean Czechoslovakia, right? They used to be Czechoslovakia first, then they split up, and today we have the Czech Republic. So the idea is that our independence we only gained back in 1918. And of course, back in 1918, before it, we used to be a part of Austrian and then Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Well, you probably also know that the main language in Czech wasn't always Czech language. It also was the German language here, right? The problem was that the last dynasty which ruled here in the Czech lands was the Habsburg dynasty, and definitely the locals did not like this one. The problem was that they made Czechs speak German language, not Czech, and they also made locals change their religion, convert to Catholicism. Of course, people didn't like this, and as soon as they got independence, well, they got the idea and they could finally get rid of anything which or to which this dynasty was connected. So they got rid of this beautiful Saint Virgin Mary's column. Well, by the end of this ceremony, the column disappeared from the main square. And of course, the situation did not finish just like easy, just like this, because many years after it, there was another place, um, there was another company which appeared here, and they said, well, to destroy the column of Saint Virgin Mary was a very wrong thing to do. So why don't we gather together and why don't we build a new statue and put it here again? So they said, and so they did. So right now they are establishing a new sculpture of Saint Virgin Mary, and they're giving back to this square the appearance of the 19th and 18th century. Well, I hope you're enjoying the beauty of the city. If you have any questions, always feel free to ask. Well, let's probably see this square for a while, because Prague is not only the main square and the main clock. We are coming, by the way, to this clock very soon. And before we do that, before we escape from this square, I also wanted to show you another part of a very famous building. Right now in front of you, you can see the Old Town City Hall and the clock, the astronomical clock tower. Well, the only problem here is that you see the second part of this city hall. Back there in May 1945, when the end of the war was coming to Prague, there was a huge war here in the city center of Prague. Well, in the end of the Second World War, Prague was liberated, but 2 days before it, the last part of the city hall was destroyed. Well, Prague wasn't almost bombed, and everything which you can see in the historical city center is like it used to be even before the war. That is why Prague is called one of the most beautiful city in Europe, because it's preserved. And even though after the Second World War many cities in Europe were destroyed, Prague is one of the cities which wasn't. And only the small piece of this building was partially destroyed back in May 1945. Well, thanks God, we are happy that the rest of the city hall is still right here. So we'll be leaving the square right now, and we'll be going to one of the small and narrow streets, and I just would like to show you how you as a tourist, when you come to Prague, and I truly believe that you will, how you are as a tourist, you could come back to Prague and what you should do here. Even though Prague is a beautiful city, you should know one of the grand rules in Prague, which is to always turn to the right or to the left just turn around the corner. And if you just simply walk around the square or along the street, please definitely do that. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna leave here for the street which is called Kozhina, and I'm gonna show you some paths which are almost always without the tourists. Well, Prague is not only beautiful, Prague may be scary, especially if you are here late at night. Over here, you can see the stones, which used to be here for a long time, protecting the angles of the buildings from the carriages with horses. And of course, when the horses were coming very fast, and almost all the drivers who were in the carriage, they were drunk, of course. Well, this part of the house was destroyed. So these protections you can see almost everywhere. Well, today there are no horses here and no cars, and this part of the city is only the pedestrian zone. But what you see right now, this is the true city of Prague. Not only the main square, but these small streets. We also have a beautiful cobblestone everywhere around the city. And for this cobblestone, we have a special name in Prague. When you come to Prague, all the cobblestone is called Kočici hlavy, which will be translated like the cat's head. So guys, yes, unbelievable, but you're actually walking and stepping on every single stone, which is called the head of a cat. Maybe the reason why is that so, well, one of the reasons why is that so is because locals do not quite like cats. They prefer dogs to cats. Well, and the second reason, for example, is that almost all the cobblestones here, they used to be round, like this, not flat, like they are today. And of course, time helped a lot, and they became flat for some centuries. And for now, what you can see is everything which remained around this place, of course, at the place of the cat's head. Well, guys, I hope that you have already forgot what we're speaking about in the main old town square. Because now is the right time to give you the second question. And my second question here will be the following one. So the question is, if you can remember, please write down in the comments when was the old town city hall destroyed partially. Please write down the month and the year. And I'll repeat the question once again, please. When was the old town city hall destroyed? I'll give you some time here, so we will be walking a little bit because Prague is not only about history and beauty. Prague is also about the feeling, how you feel here in this city. Sometimes you may see the ghosts, sometimes you may see, oh, of course. I hope you see that, right? I don't have to pronounce that. So anything we can see in Prague, it's just right here. Yeah, you're looking at this one. I hope you see what's written there. But also you can see a small and narrow street, and this tower over here is the tower with the famous Prague astronomical clock, right? Well, unbelievable. There were supposed to be thousands of tourists at the same time in this street, and now we just only can see a couple of locals here. Well, unbelievable. And because we are today not only on a virtual tour, we are here today almost in Prague, almost in our perfect Prague tour. Well, your tour guide can not only leave this place and not to give you the recommendation. I truly believe, guys, when you come to Prague, you should definitely find this place, and this is Manufaktura. Manufaktura is a very famous shop with local Czech cosmetics, and especially the beer cosmetics, because you definitely know how much Czech Republic today is famous for beer, right? So whenever you come to Prague, please come here. Well, for now the shop is closed, but I hope very soon they will reopen again. And I hope that when you come to Prague, can definitely find a lot of interesting stuff, and you can bring back some Czech cosmetics as a souvenir, because it will both contain beer, it's beer cosmetics, right? And it will be still something really cool. Well, maybe next time when we'll meet here in Prague virtual tour, maybe we could go over there to the Wenceslas Square, to the new city of Prague. But today we're gonna go off the beaten paths and we'll come here through this small passage. Well, well, well. You definitely should know that all the buildings, all the palaces in Prague, in Czech Republic, they're made in the shape of well, just like this one, right? So you have balconies all around. You can see beautiful big windows, so the light could get in here, and you can see some cool restaurants. So today, because we are still in the old town of Prague, almost no locals are living here, just some of them. And most of these buildings are rented by companies, by hotels, by restaurants, clubs, and so on. Right? So this is just a small shortcut. So I definitely recommend you to use this one to leave the touristical path, touristical street, and to get here to a so-called Melantrichova street. Well, here we are next to one of the famous Prague restaurants. This one is called Modré Kachničky, which is translated like a restaurant at the Blue Duck. And today they are serving as a bakery, which is really good. And another cool place, which it's actually a hotel, but now you see they are more like a restaurant inside. Also a good one, which is called Deer, with some cool views and some great coffee. Believe me, I'm a coffee person, so the same will be you if you come to Prague, and you'll definitely will. Well, but because touring Prague, it's not only walking all around the famous streets which are on the Google map, and you can Google that. I'm gonna show you something which will be pretty difficult for you to Google, because some of the things are so much hidden that you cannot even notice them. Let us stop here for a while. Sometimes next to some doors in the old town of Prague or in the other parts of Prague, you'll be able to see these things. They look like golden bricks, and they definitely are, because what you are looking at right now, these are the stones in memory of Jewish people, right? And if you can look attentively over here, you'll definitely see. Look at this. You can definitely see the names and the numbers. It's written that over here, Zdejil lived Ludwig, who was born, narozen, in 1881. He was deported back to the concentration camp Terezin. Yes, we also have got our own concentration camp at the territory of Czechoslovakia. And then he was killed there in 1942 in another concentration camp, Treblinka. And the same over here, but well, with these guys it was a bit different. They used to live here next to this house, deported to Terezin, the same concentration camp as here, but then they were deported from Terezin to Auschwitz, and you know Auschwitz, which is located in Poland, right? So from Terezin, people were transported to Auschwitz and then killed over there. Well, unfortunately, I would like to say that there are only a few bricks like this in the whole city, but I'm afraid there are much more bricks like that all around Europe. And this is a new project. Maybe you have never heard about that one. Well, this new project was made by the guy from Berlin, a very famous one, but he decided not to only make it in Germany, but everywhere all around Europe. Well, I hope you like this street, because we're gonna go there. And you should be really careful when you come to this street. Look at this. Over here you can see a special timetable. And this timetable serves for the opening of this street. And you can see that during the summertime, it's only open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. The reason why is that so is because this street is a special private street, and it's actually owned by the guys, the people who live here. Well, it has the name. Look at this. You can see La Sova. But at the same time, you can only use and cross this street during the daytime. This was the way how the locals tried to get rid of the drunk tourists after 8 p.m. who disturbed them a lot. And of course, they closed this street during the nighttime, so nobody could actually get in here, right? Okay, let's go then. We're heading back to the main old town square, but no worries, we won't be there very, very soon. But we still have something to look for in the old town here. The only question which I have to you, and you definitely will be able to name it. I named it already today, so just try to remember. I want to ask you, what is the right name of the famous Prague clock everybody's speaking about? So, question number 3 is, what is the right name for the very famous Prague clock? By the time we're gonna get to the Prague clock, I'll give you the answer and you'll know this. But for now, please answer the question. Question number 3, the name of Prague famous clock. And while you'll be answering the question, right, we'll have another short walk around the old town. Well, another very interesting place which you're looking at right now, it's a restaurant, Fat Cat, over here. I used to like this place a lot, and over here, everywhere, there could be thousands of people sitting here and watching you right in the street. But unfortunately, today it's been changed, and almost nobody is here right now. As well as over here at the famous restaurant Udomenicana. Well, over here you can see how the small and narrow streets in Prague used to be back in the 14th century, because almost nothing has changed here, right? Well, we'll be leaving this place and we'll be going back all around this area of the old town, and you have the unique possibility, guys, to enjoy and to see how the city looks like today, while there are almost no tourists, almost nobody. I can't even describe how overpacked this place used to be just only 2 or 3 months ago, even in February, even when we had a so-called low season. Well, let's get back to some history stuff. Of course, Prague is a very old city, and the probably the most famous part of the history of Prague comes back to the 14th century. In the 14th century, we had the peak of development, and we had our most famous king who used to rule here, and his name is King Charles IV. King Charles IV was not only Czech, he was half Czech and half French. His dad was coming from France, and his name was John the Blind. Oh, you probably are familiar with him. He liked to conquer British, and they also had fights together. And his mom, Charles IV's mom, was local. She was Czech, and her name was Eliška. Well, can you imagine? Can you see that? So many people. We are still having quarantine, but so many people here, huh? That's funny. So both Charles IV's mom and dad, they did not have a happy marriage. Unfortunately, uh, they were good people, but they were not happy in their marriage. And of course, he, John the Blind, left Prague and went to Paris for a long time because he didn't like to stay here in Prague. Of King Charles was 18 when they got married. Can you imagine this? Just, just imagine a 14 years old boy getting married with this 18 years old girl. Well, doesn't look like a very happy marriage, and indeed it wasn't. Even though the most famous and wonderful King Charles was born after this marriage. Well, unbelievable. What actually King Charles did here in Prague? He did almost everything. All the Gothic style which was brought from France was brought by King Charles. A very famous Charles University, which is one of the oldest universities in Europe, is operating until today, and opened by King Charles as well. What else? The very famous Prague Castle was opened by King Charles, was fully renovated back in the 14th century. And of course, many other things were done by King Charles. And anytime when you ask, well, okay, who is that king? The king who everybody remembers, well, everybody will say, of course, King Charles. Um, it's maybe a miracle, but King Charles is the fourth not in vain. There is a reason why he's number four. Not only because there used to be King Charles the first, the second, and the third, but also because Prague is a magical city. Here in Prague, in the old town, and anywhere, everything is multiplied by four. Well, you may not believe me, but I'm also here presented by four because there is not only me here, there is also my phone here, and my stick here, and my headphones here. So we are also four presenting this beautiful city to you. Well, well, well. Another square, but this is not the square I promised you, right? Because I promised you we're gonna see the old town square, but we're not here because we are supposed to start at the old town and finish there. Okay, let's try to understand where we are and what's going on here. Welcome to so-called Marianska Square. Marianska Square is the place where there used to be a church of Saint Virgin Mary, but unfortunately no church is left here today. Instead of churches, we have a huge library, this one, Clementinum, over here. We have the second library, the city library, this one, over here. And we also have a so-called Old Town City Hall, this one, over here. By the way, this is the place where the Red Cross is established as an organization which helps to people during the crisis and the coronaviruses in these days also. Maybe if you are familiar with this place, then you definitely know why exactly we're gonna get into this place right now and what we're gonna see. So why don't you join me so we could come in here and our knowledge will be grown a lot during this tour because we're gonna look in a very special place which is called the Well of Knowledge. So why don't we get in there and look what exactly this Well of Knowledge means. Okay, and while I will be coming in here in this city library, could you please answer my first question? So question number 4 will be now about the name of the most famous Czech king. So please, question number 4, give me the fourth. One moment. Dobrý den. You see, guys, one moment. We have to first use disinfection before we enter here. So I'm going to do it with my first hand and my second hand. Okay, so these are the rules. You see the new rules over here. So let's get back to the question. Question number 4. give me please the name of the most famous king in the Czech lands. And while you're writing the answers there in the comments, here we are approaching this unusual statue over here, right? Well, yes, these are the books. You're right. And no, you cannot destroy the books. And no, you cannot read the books. But what we are gonna do here is, why don't we look inside? Because in there we can see the endless well of knowledge. Okay, so be careful, guys. We'll be looking inside right now. That's it. Look at this. This is the endless well of knowledge. And you can see books never end here until you look inside. You really look inside. And you can see your own reflection. Of course, you understand. This is the mirror here. And if you look up, that's me, by the way. If you look up, you can see another mirror up here, right? So the two mirrors, 8,000 books, and over here you can see the modern sculpture, the reflection. So why don't I show you something interesting here as well? Not only you can see different books here, right? Because the books they had to be destroyed and set up to fire, but they never were. There are a lot of books in different languages. So not only you can see the Czech language here, not only you can see Slovak language here, Polish, maybe sometimes German. You can also find Russian language here as well. Well, probably you're familiar with the period of time, as we call it today, the communism time, a communism regime, which used to be in the second part of the 20th century. Well, we were not a part of the Soviet Union, by the way, but we were under the big influence of the communism regime and the communism time. And Russian language was also the language which everybody had to learn here. And that is why not only we have books in Czech and Slovak languages, but also we have a lot of books in Russian language as well. Well, today, after Czech language, we have English or German as the first foreigner language, and then you can choose Spanish, Italian, French, Russian, or any other language as your second foreign language. This is how it works. Well, we won't be getting in there in this library because this library is, let's say, not as modern as you might have seen anywhere else in the world, right? But it's just a simple library where even I can often borrow some books, especially about the history. They have a huge collection of different books, but you should be careful because you have to return back the books on time. And if you don't do this, well, of course you'll be fined for that. Okay, so let's leave the library and let's head back to the Old Town City Hall. Well, over here I also wanted to show you before we leave. Look over here. You can see an herb, a shield here, a shield of the city of Prague. And down there it's written Matka Praha Měst, which means that Prague is the mother of the cities. Well, this is how it works. Maybe you have noticed that, I don't know, I had to say goodbye to that lady because she's staring at me like I'm with a camera. Maybe you didn't know, but locals, they don't quite like cameras. So anytime when I'm getting in some libraries or museums or any places inside, they stare at me like, what are you doing here with this camera? I don't want to be filmed. Well, of course I don't film like them, but I film it for you. So why don't I film this guy here? He's been waiting for his lady for a long time, maybe a couple of centuries, and this guy has a special name. Well, this is a knight without a face. There is a legend which says that one day this night killed a woman, and this woman stays right here, just next to him. And the legend also says that if one day there'll be a woman who will love him and who will kiss him, then he'll become alive again. Well, first of all, this guy is too far away from me, so I would never kiss him. And secondly, he is too dark. Anyway, the legend also says that a woman should kiss this guy only once in a year during the New Year night. And if you have never been to Prague during the New Year time, this will be definitely the time when you should visit our beautiful city only to help this guy to come back alive. This is how it works in Prague. So why don't we have a short walk now? We'll be coming soon back to the old town square. Alright guys, so we are coming back with you to the old town square, and before we do that, we'll be appearing very soon in a very unusual place. I'm not sure if any of you have ever read so-called uh, poetry and poems and just the lyrics of the guy whose name was Franz Kafka, but maybe you are familiar with him. And maybe you are much more familiar with him than anyone else. The problem is that Franz Kafka was the guy who wasn't that famous here in the Czechoslovakia when he used to live here. Well, Franz Kafka was German in the soul, Jewish by the documents and German by the documents as well, but he was Czech somewhere in deep inside, so he could never figure out who exactly he was, and he wrote many very unusual and weird pieces of art, but today he is extremely famous all around the world, and it's because of his friend Max Brod, who published what he did just when he died. It's very funny then that when Franz Kafka asked his friend, well, why don't you destroy all the poetry which I made? Why don't you get rid of it? Max Brod says, okay, I will. But when Franz Kafka died, he never did. He tried to publish Franz Kafka's work in Czechoslovakia, then in Europe, and then only when he went to the United States, it was finally published. And this place is a house when Franz Kafka was born. That is why a small square, this area all around us, is a so-called Franz Kafka's square. Well, they have today even the museum of Franz Kafka just in front of the house where he was born, and we are again back next to the old town square, right? Well, as usually, we would go either this way or this way, but today I'll definitely bring you to this guy. Come here. So, speaking about the question about the old universities in Prague, well, there are not so many. The oldest one still remains to be Charles University. After the Charles University, we also have a so-called Czech Technical University. Well, if you calculate how old the Charles University is, that will be almost 700 years old. In comparison with Czech Technical University, which is only 300 years old, of course that one is much younger. Charles University remains to be #1 university in almost every field. Mm, if we are speaking about medicine, or we are speaking about um, what else? Science. Well, Charles University will always remain #1. But if you want to be highly educated in the field of, let's say, chemistry or informational technologies, then you definitely should leave Charles University and get, for example, to technical schools of chemical technologies or programming technologies, for example. So all of them are today much more modern than the Charles University. And over here, we're coming to another beautiful place. Well, another beautiful restaurant, and definitely you can see the name Pivnica. Pivnica is another name which you should know when you come to Prague, because this name comes from the word pivo. Pivo is beer, and Pivnica is actually a pub. So be careful when you come to Prague, because here, well, the locals will make you drink a lot. Every single Czech person drinks approximately 1 cup of beer every single day. This is what the statistics says to us. And if you didn't drink all the week, well, you will have to complete these statistics by the end of the week. Well, I'm afraid this is not a joke at all, because usually Friday is the day when you come and drink beer, and you definitely should change the cups of beer by some shots of Becherovka. Becherovka or Becherovka, as you might read this liquor, is a so-called Prague elixir of youth. Okay, let's not say Prague, let's say Czech elixir of youth. But if you drink Becherovka every single evening, when, well, the doctors promise you'll be always young and happy. For now, I'm trying this, and I think it really, really works. Okay? Well, we are back to the close to the old town of Prague. I also wanted to show you a very unusual place in the city. Well, this tower, together with this huge block of building, is another library, a very famous old library, Clementinum. And in the top of this tower, you cannot see people today because this one is closed. But as usually, this is another astronomical tower of Prague, the place where the temperature has been measured for 300 years. And when you see the forecast, for the next day in your mobile phones in Prague, you're getting data from over that place, from the tower and from the whole complex of the library, of the Clementinum library. It's very interesting that many years ago, when people could not afford themselves to have clock in every single house, all the churches were looking at this as the main place where the clock used to be established. And when this place every day at noon started to ring a bell, all the other churches in the city heard this and started to ring the bells as well. And people knew, aha, this is the noon now. This was an easy way how to understand what time it is right now. Okay. So here we are, back to the so-called small square of Prague. The small square of Prague is the place where almost all the restaurants have only opened right now. And we are approaching the old town square, we are approaching the Prague astronomical clock. And the last question, which I'm gonna give to you, question number 5, is by the end, how old Prague is. I hope you've heard the right answer, and I'm sure you know that, because Prague is a very old medieval city. So that is why, for you today, question number 5, how old Prague is today. And while you'll be answering the question, Well, over here we'll be coming back because Prague astronomical clock and Prague astronomical show is waiting for us, right? Prague astronomical show is waiting for us because every single hour at the Prague astronomical clock we're gonna see the struggle between the death and the life. Oh, okay, here we are coming back. So you recognize the teen church, right? Very soon I'm gonna give you the right answers to all my questions. So you'll know if you were right or almost right. We are really happy to see that Prague is coming back to life. There are a lot of people here, even in the restaurant. The Turdelnik Prague famous dessert is being sold. Okay, this is it. You see a so-called Prague chimney cake, right? But of course, these guys hate when I film them, so I have to show you the astronomical clock. Here we go, guys. I hope you like the tour, and I hope you liked the idea of having the virtual tour and coming back to the city. Even though the borders are now closed, we truly believe that everything is possible, right? I would like myself thank a lot the company, the Join Pro, for the possibility to which they gave to me to be a guide and to show you this beautiful place today. And of course, if you like the tour, we'll be happy if you send us some donation because this will be your way to support and thank us for the virtual tour. Very soon the show will start, so let me explain what exactly is gonna be here for us today. So here we are, and every single hour at this beautiful Prague astronomical clock, which is almost 6 centuries old. Over here, you can see a lot of figures which will be struggling for death or for life. Over here, you can see two circles, the upper one and the downer one. The upper one is moving, and of course, you can see there is an arrow here which shows exactly this time. Well, you cannot see the number because it's closed, but it shows that today and right now it's exactly 4 hours. It's almost 5 in Prague. So there is a mistake in 1 hour in this Prague astronomical clock because we have never changed time back in the 14th century. But today we changed time uh, from summertime to wintertime and back, so the clock shows a bit different time. Over here you can see the skeleton, and every single hour the skeleton will shake his head and the skeleton will say, yes, you're gonna die. And three other figures like this one and these two, they will shake their head and they will say, "Oh no, no, we don't want to die because we want to live. We have a lot of money. Um, we have a lot of time, and we want to live much more." At the same time, up here in these two windows, there will be 12 apostles, which will look at you, and of course, they will see if you are here. You'll definitely get some bonuses from the top. You know what I mean, right? The show is very short. It's only gonna take us just around 40 seconds up to 1 minute, and in the end, this golden cock is gonna sing his song because he means that a new hour is starting right now. Well, you also have the possibility to go up here to this tower and at the same time visit all five halls of a so-called Old Town City Hall, all these, and of course, definitely do it. My recommendation is here for you. Well, guys, uh, we only have 3 minutes till the end, actually, till the Prague astronomical show starts, right? So, let me announce all the 5 questions which we had. Let me announce the right answers. So today we were talking about the styles. So the question was what style the main church of the old town is. Of course, it is the Gothic style. Here we are. This is the right answer. Then I also asked you when was the old town city hall destroyed, and it was destroyed back in May 1945. Well, we also were speaking about the right name for Prague clock, which you understood is Prague astronomical clock, right? Astronomical is the right answer, or if you know the Latin one, Orlo, it's also good, but Prague astronomical clock is fine, right? Then we also have the question about the king, right? The name of Czech most famous king was King Charles the Fourth, right? So we probably have one more question. The last one was how old Prague is, and by most of the sources, Prague is dated back by the 9th century, which means Prague is 12 centuries old for today. Well, guys, thank you a lot for your attention. We are happy that you are here, and please feel free to watch the other live streams from different places. Later today, live tour around Beijing University campus will be here especially for you. And we only have, guys, 1 minute and even less than 1 minute until the show starts. You can see how many people here are. Everybody is watching the show. Everybody wants to see how it looks like, and every single hour a lot of people are gathering here and we are together with them. As soon as the show starts, I'll give you just like 40 seconds to watch the show. So please remember, we are watching the two windows here. We are watching the skeleton, which is shaking his hand, and these three other figures, which are also moving a little bit. So be careful, watch the show, and of course, feel free to enjoy the city. All right. Are you ready, guys? And that's it. This is the very old Prague astronomical show, which is here almost 600 years old. Well, guys, thank you a lot for your attention. Thank you a lot for being here today with us. My name was Victoria, and I was really happy to be here in Prague to guide you in this beautiful virtual tour. And I hope to see you soon in our next live streams. And I'm always happy to see you in Prague. Thanks to Join Pro. Thank you for your participation. And of course, feel free to support our project. My name is Victoria. Hello from Prague, and see you next time. That was all from me. See you guys later. Bye bye.